Hi everyone, welcome back. I am here, and quite frankly, I apologize if I look a mess. I feel a mess because my brain is fried, and I am gonna take myself to the gym to, declutter. I don't actually know if it's gonna declutter my brain, but like, I don't know. Sometimes I just feel like doing something physical, it helps. So I'm actually going to the gym because my brain is a little fried after work today. Anyway, I'm just here to kind of check in, start this new reading vlog in which the theme for this is gonna be haunted houses, I think. We're gonna, I guess, loosely interpret what a haunted house is. I'm hoping to read at least 3 books. If not 3 books, then I might only have 2. 4 would be lovely, but I don't know how realistic that is. So I'm just gonna share with you, I have 2 books with me right now. I do have another one to pick up from the library, which I'm gonna do on my way today. But I wanted to just at least start off and tell you the 2 that I have at home and that I'm gonna be reading. So I have a combination of horror and cozy mystery. So the first one I have is Just Like Home by Gailey. I don't know very much about this. I believe I could just read the back. Okay, anyway. So, my roommate, not my roommate, I don't have a roommate. So my friend Courtney actually gifted this book to me at Christmas time last year, and I haven't read it yet because I figured it would be good for spooky season. But basically what this book is about is a young woman who, her father ended up being a serial killer, and she and her mother end up going back to the house where he committed his crimes. And I don't really know why they're going back. My guess is they're probably cleaning it up and getting it ready to sell. I could be wrong, but Courtney gave me this book last year because she saw it on a shelf at Barnes & Noble, and like the sign basically to like kind of advertise the selections on that end cap table shelf thing. It was, what could go wrong? So she thought of me and she purchased this one. I believe that horror books are best read at night or in the dark because if you read them by daylight, sometimes they're just not scary. So this is gonna be my nighttime reading for the next week and a half until I finish it or so. I don't know how long it's gonna take, but maybe it's gonna be one of those books where I can't get enough of it, or maybe it's gonna be a slog. Like I said, I don't know. I'll let you know. And then my cozy mystery selection is gonna be Haunted to Death by Frank Anthony Polito. I went to his book signing at Sidetrack Books in Royal Oak on September 17th, and I purchased this there, and I got it signed, where he did. I got it signed I got it signed by him. He's also having an event at the end of October with Darci Hannah at another bookstore within the Tri-County area. So I may end up going to that too, just for S's and G's, because it's Frank Anthony Polito and Darci Hannah, whose books I have read before. So just gonna go ahead and read this. It was a really nice book event, I will say. So when I went to this book signing and I had Frank Anthony Polito sign this book, he told me a really funny story about how when the movie Steel Magnolias came out, he went to go see it with 2 of his friends, and he went with one of his gay friends, and he also went with like the straight friend, and he said the straight friend was crying so hard at the end of the movie that it was just funny. And he did a really good impression of someone just bawling their eyes out. So, and the reason he told that story is because that movie, Steel Magnolias, My Name is Shelby, Julia Roberts' character in that movie is named Shelby, and that movie, I believe, is why in the early 90s, Shelby was a pretty popular name. But yeah, so I'm gonna be reading this. This is gonna be like my daytime thing. He did our little reading of it too when we were at Sidetrack Books, and it seemed very fun and almost a little bit Scooby-Doo-ish, which I could have read this for the Scooby-Doo readathon, but I had already had my books picked at that point, because this one would have been a good one for, well, it's got an orange cover, so it would have been good for Velma, and it's got male characters, so it probably could have been a viable option for Fred too. But in this book, PJ and JP, they are stars of a HD TV, not HGTV, but HDTV television show called Domestic Partners. And so this is Domestic Partners in Crime. And in this one, they are actually renovating a haunted house. But I'm really excited because like he is from my local area, or at least within, I'll say local area, I mean the Tri-County area. So like the Tri-County area, for those of you who don't know, in the Detroit area, it's Wayne County, Macomb County, and Oakland County. So I think he's doing like a fictionalized version of Oakland County in these books. But anyway, it doesn't matter. I'm looking forward to seeing some fictionalized Michigan in this. And I also can add this to my Set in Michigan shelf on Goodreads. This has nothing to do with anything about haunted houses, but I do have to say a book that takes place in Michigan automatically just kind of gets put a little bit higher on the TBR pile for me. I'm biased. It's where I live. It's my favorite state. And I've seen a lot of states. I think every state is beautiful in its way, but Michigan is home and therefore it is my favorite. Okay, instead of babbling on and on, I am going to go work out. I'm gonna go work some of this out and you will see me, if not tonight, you'll see me tomorrow morning. Just popping in for a quick update. I did get this started last night. I don't remember what chapter I'm on, but I believe well, I don't believe I was. I know I was wrong. I think I said yesterday that she and her mom are going back to the house where her dad was a serial killer. Her mom's always been there. Her mom's never left. She is going home because her mother is dying in the house where her father was a serial killer. I don't really know where this is going. I don't know where I think it's going. I have seen on Marcella over at Marcy Reads, she said that this book was really good. I think she read it for one of her vlogs, so that was nice to at least get an endorsement from someone else, because I don't think I've really ever seen or heard anybody talking about this book. Definitely not sure if it qualifies as a haunted house book, though there is a character in here who is an artist who paints haunted houses, so that might be, you know, the haunted house element here. The dynamic between the main character, Vera, who is not this is actually a third-person narration book, which I am kind of enjoying because I feel like they're kind of, I don't see them as often as I do. I usually see like first person, but the third-person narration is nice. But the dynamic between the main character, Vera, and her mother, Daphne, is, ooh, man. For a woman who is dying, who does not move from her hospital bed, allegedly, Daphne is there's no love. There is no love that this woman does not love her daughter at all. And literally at one point in the beginning, the daughter says, "Love you, Mom," and the mother literally, she says, "Let's not pretend." Ooh, I don't know. I'm gonna keep reading. I'm gonna get to the bottom of this. On that note, I'm gonna go throw these in my backpack because I'm heading to my sister's for the next couple days. But you will see me again soon. Either you'll see me when I get back from my sister's house. You won't even know. You won't even know I was gone because it's literally just gonna come up next in this part. It's Tuesday and I wanted to give an update because I don't remember where I was last time I checked in. But it's Tuesday now, and so I've done a little bit of reading. I am not finished with Just Like Home, but I've made some progress. I have to say, this book reminds me of two other books I've read. Not necessarily, well, one of them was recent, one of them wasn't. I've already explained kind of what's going on in this book, and so we are now at the point where the character, it's kind of told in two different timelines, not necessarily like, so part of the story is told through flashbacks, and so we see the present with Vera being home cleaning up her parents' house while her mother's dying, and then we also have flashbacks to when Vera is in her early adolescence, and it's kind of in the run-up to her father being caught, because it's well known at this point that her father was a serial killer. And so at one point in this book already, he has been the police have come to the house to ask about someone who is missing. So we also have seen in this part too, where the dad's like taken Vera fishing and is talking to her. And I think I get the impression that her father, his victims are primarily, if not solely, male. And at this point too in the book, we have seen a little bit, maybe not necessarily of, I don't want to say a darker side to Vera, because she's, you know, in the flashback she's 12, but you kind of do see a little bit of whatever sadistic urges or whatever. I don't want to say it like that, but there's a scene where she's having an interaction with her father, and you can kind of see possibly that there is there are times when violence is exciting to her. We also kind of see that Vera knows more than she's letting on at that point at the age of 12, because she does have, we see an interaction where Vera kind of reveals that she knows her father's routine, if we're gonna put it that way. One of the books it reminds me of is the most recent horror book that I've read, which is called The Last House on Needless Street by Catriona Ward. This has aspects of it that remind me of Needless Street. It also reminds me though of another book that I read several years ago called The Marsh King's Daughter by Karen Dionne. That one actually was really, really good, but it's kind of similar in that there's a relationship between, it's similar because it depicts kind of the complicated relationship and to a degree the complicated love between a daughter and her monstrous father. Also similar to The Marsh King's Daughter, you see it in, that particular novel too kind of operates between a present timeline and then flashbacks. So very, very different, we'll just say not dissimilar concepts, but different execution. And then for Haunted to Death, I am about a third of the way through. This one, I've been a little slower going. Being that I literally just had a weekend where I could have been reading more of this, I didn't because I was at my sister's, and I have a little niece who commands a lot of my attention when I'm visiting, of course, as I think it should. But I did get started. I'm kind of, I'm really enjoying the fictional Oakland County that Frank Anthony Polito is presenting here. I also find it really funny that there are, like, I find the way he writes, like the way he writes his characters kind of funny, and like the way he names them. Like, obviously the narrator, PJ Penwell, is a writer, so his last name is Penwell, and then his partner, JP Broadway, he's an actor, so his last name is Broadway. There's also, when I realized this, I said it out. I kind of went, oh no. I went, oh no, out loud. Their police detective is named Detective Punchki. I assume most people know, but if you don't know, Punchki are the donuts that Polish people eat on Fat Tuesday. So he's Detective Donut, which is kind of, it's funny. It made me go out. Like, I literally was like, oh God, oh no. Oh God, it kills me. At this time, I'm under the impression that the murder in this book is very much a cold case. So it's one that they don't even know that it was necessarily murder. But the death happened about 25 years ago. I don't know that there's going to be another murder involved in the story at this point or not. I'm about 1/3 of the way through, so I almost feel like if there were going to be another body, I would have found it by now. But I'm really enjoying it. I think it's very fun. It's very fun. Like, just Detective Donut is killing me. Also, Sparky, the electrician. I'm excited to read more because things are happening in the story where we wonder is this house haunted, etc., etc. Was it a murder? How do we know it was a murder? We don't really have any tangible clues yet at this time that a murder has occurred, or that the death 25 years previously. We don't have any clues that it was necessarily a murder at that time. But I'm sure we're gonna get there. At this time, I'm along for the ride. I don't have any idea where this is gonna go yet. But again, I'm only about 1/3 of the way in, so we will be finding out. I am certain what's gonna happen next. Of course, we're gonna find out what happens next. So there is another dead body because they just found it. So I'm on page 102. So there's the cold case going on, but there's another body now. So we're gonna find out. We're gonna find out more. Gonna keep reading. Okay. No, he's not dead. They thought he was dead. So it sounds like the show's producer found him. He had fallen off a ladder, and now Detective Donut, aka Detective Punchki, is on the case and investigating. So fingers crossed. I hope there's, I don't know. I'm a roller coaster. As you can see from the previous clips, I did some reading during my lunch break, and I've done a little bit reading now that work's over for the day. I actually think I know what happens, but I'm gonna keep going because I am more than halfway through, and I really am just enjoying the story for what it is. Unless like some big twist comes out of the woodwork, and I could be totally wrong. I have a hunch as to what happened, or at least I know what I think happened. I could be wrong. I'm not going to tell you what I think happened because that could potentially be spoilers, especially because like I don't want to come back later and be like, I was right or I was wrong and spoil it. I have a tendency to just kind of analyze stories as I'm reading them, or while I'm watching movies, I just like analyze as I go, and I kind of do the whole like, ooh, foreshadowing, ooh, I think this is what's gonna happen. It makes the people who watch movies with me really crazy, and I'm sorry to them. I can't stop. It's just what I do. Despite all of that, despite all the fact that I have things going on in my head as I'm analyzing the story and as I'm trying to predict what I think happens, or, you know, predict who I like, just kind of, you know, make my predictions about how Emma Wheeler Woods died, etc., etc. I really am just enjoying the story. This is kind of fun because you're getting flashbacks. Wow. The other book I'm reading has flashbacks in it. You get what's going on in the present, and then you also get flashbacks to the night that Emma Wheeler Woods, who was the victim in this case, you get flashbacks to the night she died. So you're getting these perspectives from a few different people, from people that PJ and JP know, and people who were there that night, of course. It wouldn't make a lot of sense if people were giving flashbacks of what they were doing that night and they weren't at the party. And even though I am an over-analytical little goblin, the first question I do have to ask myself when I'm reading a book or watching a movie is, am I entertained? Because for a lot of this, the purpose is to be entertained. So I'm very, very entertained by this. I'm really enjoying the experience of reading this particular book. So that's good in and of itself. But I'm also enjoying the mystery. I'm enjoying the way that the story's being told. And the way I see it, I'm gonna enjoy the ending and be satisfied by it, because I am either gonna be right or I'm gonna be wrong, and something is gonna come and surprise me. I really am enjoying the characters PJ and JP, and also just some of their friends in is it Pleasant Woods? Yeah. I am enjoying Pleasant Woods. I'm loving Detective Donut, and is it Fairway Bob? I really enjoyed Bob. Bob's fun. He's an antique store owner, and his store is called Somewhere in Time. He named it after his favorite movie, which also, like this book, was filmed. Well, this book wasn't filmed in Michigan. This book is set in Michigan, but Somewhere in Time was filmed in Michigan at Mackinac Island. I feel like I've plugged a couple movies that I've never actually seen before in this video, because I talked about Steel Magnolias earlier, and then I talked about Somewhere in Time, which both, well, not so much Steel Magnolias. I don't really care if I see Steel Magnolias. Nothing against it. I would go see the play, but I do really at some point in my life want to go watch Somewhere in Time, which, like, I can do anytime. I'm sure it's on streaming somewhere, you know? Also, it's a book by, is it Richard Matheson? The guy who wrote I Am Legend wrote Somewhere in Time. Has nothing to do with anything other than that is the name of an antique store in this book. Genuinely, I can't wait to see what happens next. It's the next day, and I wanted to report back that I did finish Just Like Home last night. I stayed up until about 11:30 reading it so I could finish, and I have to say, as far as giving this book a grade, this is a solid A book, and it does a lot of things really well. It does a lot of things right. One of my pet peeves with horror is that whenever there's something paranormal going on, at the end when somebody just kind of explains it all away, it was human shenanigans all along, just playing a prank on someone, or, you know, I guess a really malicious prank sometimes. That's not my favorite, and I really like that this isn't the case there. Whatever there is an explanation, but it's not, there is an explanation, but it's actually not explained away by like human shenanigans, if that makes sense. There is something paranormal happening, and I really appreciated, I think one of the things that kept me up last night reading this was we were getting so close, and just the anticipation of knowing that the reveal is coming of whatever is going on, whatever's kind of happening, just that anticipation of the reveal kept me reading last night, and I think it paid off really well. I have to give this author a lot of kudos because I think they did very well when other where other writers would have done something different for a similar situation. I think as far as the execution of this was really, really good. The only thing I really have to say about this book, other than it does pay off in the end, is that the front half, the beginning, I would say almost even 2/3 of this book, you don't necessarily, like, you know something's up, but it's kind of slow moving, and then it just kind of all happens very quickly at the end, which is absolutely fine. That happens a lot, like, that happens a lot even in TV shows, I feel like, and in other books too. So things kind of are slow to start, but it really picks up and then it pays off really well in the end. There were parts of reading this book that made my eyes sting at the beginning. At the beginning of this book, there were parts that just made my eyes sting. The way this book covers the relationship between fathers and daughters, and the relationship between mothers and daughters, and the relationships between husbands and wives, and just the, like, definitely like the human search for unconditional love. I think there's a lot of that in here too. I think as far as gore goes, it's very mild on gore. There is some parts where, I mean, obviously there are parts where, you know, the main character's father is a serial killer, and there are 2 parts where the character herself does interact with 2 of her father's victims, but it's very, it's not, honestly, I think if we're going to talk about gore in this book, there's a scene where the main character Vera goes fishing with her dad, and I think that's gorier than the scenes with her father's, like, serial killing victims. So that part, it's like, the gore in this is very mild. I think I realize horror is not for everybody. It wasn't for me until within the last couple of years, if I'm being honest. 100% do recommend if you're interested, at least even mildly, in the horror genre. This was very well done. I really enjoyed reading this. I also want to say thank you to my friend Courtney, because she is the one who gifted me this book last Christmas. So thank you, Courtney. I finally did read it. A+, or at the very least, a solid A. So now I'm going to continue to work on reading Haunted to Death, and I also have here as well another book featuring a haunted house, in this case a haunted lighthouse, and that is Murder at the Pumpkin Pageant by Darci Hannah. So I'm gonna work on this, and then I'll probably start Murder at the Pumpkin Pageant tonight, since I don't have a horror book anymore. It's a few days later, and I did want to give an update. I did end up finishing Haunted to Death, and what I thought happened is actually what happened. I figured this out almost by accident, so I don't know if, had my brain kind of not gone down a little bit of a rabbit hole on something, I don't know that I would have figured it out. I think I would have been surprised, but yeah, I figured it out by accident. I really like certain things about this book. I like the flashbacks between the night that the murder occurred and the interplay, kind of, you get the flashback scenes from the perspective of other characters who were there that night, because obviously neither JP nor PJ were at this party where this automotive heiress has been murdered, but you're getting it from other characters who PJ and JP know because they happen to be there. So you get that perspective from a few different people, and I really enjoyed that. I thought it was really fun. I loved the Halloween party setting, and I also just really loved, there are here in the Metro Detroit area some really beautiful houses that were owned by automotive, by like people who are high up with the automotive companies. You also have a couple of lumber barons who had really stately homes in the area too. So it's not that, like, that in and of itself isn't far-fetched to me. I'm really glad I took the time to go to the book launch event at Sidetrack Books in Royal Oak, which of course is where I picked this up, and I also had the opportunity to meet the author Frank Anthony Polito, and I will definitely be checking out the other books in this series for sure. And then I think for the last book in this vlog, I have Murder at the Pumpkin Pageant, which, did I talk about it already? I think I talked about it already. So at the point I'm at, which I'm in chapter 18, I think, I kind of stopped in the middle of the chapter. I was really tired last night. At the point we're at, we do have a dead body. The victim of the murder is one of the teachers at the local high school, and Lindsay, who is the baker sleuth in this series, she met this teacher not too long ago, because the local teens have been kind of doing pranks over at Lindsay's lighthouse and bake shop because of whatever. So she's actually been working, she actually convinced this teacher to bring the kids over on a field trip so they could, you know, maybe stop being creepy and stop hanging dummies in her tree. But anyway, the teacher is the murder victim, and she actually has a little dog, and the little dog is missing. So Lindsay is pretty much been told by the police, stop snooping into the murder, but if you want to help us find the dog, please do. So we're in the process of looking for little Trixie. So I'm at chapter 35, and they found the dog, and then the Grim Reaper broke into Lindsay's lighthouse, smacks her over the head with a paddle, and now the dog's missing again. So we will be finding out. Like I said, I'm at this point in the book, like right here. So come hell or high water, I'm finishing this today. So that's where I'm at with this. I'm really enjoying it. It's fun. It's cute. I'm just saying that Hallmark is missing out on a great opportunity with this series because it's just very, very cute and so atmospheric. Beacon Harbor is every little town in a Hallmark movie. So, you know, you might wanna approach the people for like film rights or something, you know? It's Thursday, and I wanted to provide the update that I did finish Murder at the Pumpkin Pageant last night, and it was really good. It's funny, I feel like this happened when I read another book in this series, Murder at the Christmas Cookie Bake Off, which I read over the summer for Christmas in July. But one of the things that I feel like happened last time too was you go over the suspects in these books, and every time they have an interview with them or something, every suspect kind of has a plausible reason to want to kill the victim, but also like they have a plausible reason that, you know, they weren't the one. And so that kind of happened to me with this one too. I don't want to say I was pleasantly surprised, but it was good. I'm always not, when I say pleasant, I don't know, I feel like pleasantly surprised always sounds snobby, but like I don't mean it in a snobby way. I really liked the way that Darci Hannah carried this out, and I really love this scene. There's a scene at the end. Really what I want to say is that Lindsay and her best friend Kennedy remind me of myself and my friend Courtney. I'm not going to say which one I am, and I'm not going to say which one Courtney is, but there is during the confrontation, it's just a funny dynamic. So I really enjoyed this. I am going to keep reading this series, and what I'm going to do, I think, is if I can get away with it and hold on to this for a while, there are recipes at the back for things like, okay, I'm just gonna, actually, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do a dramatic reading of the recipes that are in the back of this book, because I want to hold on to this book for a minute. It is a library book. But if I can get away with not returning it to the library for a minute, I may end up doing something. So here, without any further ado, a dramatic reading of the recipes in this book. Easy pumpkin spice latte, pumpkin pie martini, pumpkin scones with maple glaze, pumpkin chocolate chip muffins, savory roast chicken and vegetables, savory apple stuffing, delicious pumpkin cheesecake, fabulous frosted pumpkin sugar cookies. I have to say, I want to try all of these recipes. I did mention that there's a pumpkin pie martini in this, and I am trying to take it easy on the sugar and the alcohol right now because I have my physical the week of Thanksgiving and I really need to lay off. I need to lay off the sugar. Like what I really need to do is lay off the sugar, but I also know that there's a lot of sugar in alcohol, so I'm trying to not, which I don't really drink alcohol that much. Even so, I just am trying to lay off the sugar, and there's so much sugar in the recipes in the end of this book, and it breaks my heart. Cookies are my favorite. Cookies are my true love. Like, actually, I'll be very honest, I give up cookies specifically every year for Lent because that's what I have. Like, that is a sacrifice. It is hard. If there are cookies in my house, they do not last. Doesn't stop me from bringing them in. The long and short of it is I'm trying to cut back on my sugar consumption because my physical is the week of Thanksgiving. But I mentioned to my mom that there's a pumpkin pie martini recipe in this, and she was intrigued. So I think if that's not something she and I try to make around Thanksgiving after my physical, it might be something that we make at like the holidays. But she was intrigued by that. I was intrigued by that. I'm just saying, pumpkin scones with maple glaze and what was it? Fabulous frosted pumpkin sugar. Cookies. I love cookies. And there's that roasted chicken recipe in here too. That sounded really good, and the apple stuffing. I have had good luck with a recipe from a Darci Hannah book in the past because I made the brown butter sugar cookie recipe that was in her, I believe book number 2 in the series, Murder at the Christmas Cookie Bake Off. I did make that cookie recipe from that book, and it turned out really well. So I want to try, I want to keep this and try maybe making something from here, closer to the end of November, obviously at the end of November. I will say I have enjoyed both books in the series that I've read, and I am going to be continuing with it. So you'll probably see more of this in the future. And that's all I have. That's all I have to say. Murder at Pumpkin Pageant. I don't actually know if I have a favorite out of the books I read. I think there was something to offer about like all of each book that I really enjoyed about, like, I enjoyed something different about each book that I read. So that was really nice. And so I'll see you again soon. My next reading vlog, I don't want to announce it because I'm kind of scared that I'm going to jinx it if I talk about it. But right now my plan for my next reading vlog is that I'm going to be reading books about witches. So if you like this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up, commenting down below. If you're going to comment down below, you can leave a pumpkin emoji, or if just tell me any of the books that you've read this month that involve haunted houses, or if you are going to be doing, if you're doing any like Halloween themed reads, if you have a channel as well, or even if you don't have a channel but you like to do themed reading themes, tell me about that below. I'd love to hear from you, and I will see you again soon. I appreciate you taking the time to watch, and I'll see you again.